welcome back to Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. I am your host, Eric Thomas. Today we are once again coming live from the Autodesk Gallery in San Francisco. And today I'm joined by Steve Long, the Director of Innovation and Learning at Dome Construction. We're going to talk all about artificial intelligence, learning, leadership, a bunch more. But before we get too deep into the weeds today, Steve, how you feeling?
Feeling good, feeling excited. This is somewhat new for me, but I'm constantly in front of audiences doing a lot of different things. So I'm super excited to talk about where we're at and let's get it going.
You're doing a lot of cool work at Dome, and so I'm excited to kind of unpack that. Specifically, you've spent nearly 3 decades at the company, which is pretty incredible. Mm-hmm. How's the definition of innovation changed in construction during that time?
I wonder if I can clarify.
Yeah.
Because I think innovation means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'm actually kind of curious from you, how would you define innovation? Because maybe that might change how I respond. So I'm just curious, because I do have a definition of innovation, but I want to make sure that I'm kind of aligned.
I love that. We're starting where I get to answer the first question.
A little bit. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, because it can go.
No, it's good. I'd say just innovation is really exploring unique ways of problem solving. So being very encouraging to folks who are out there doing the work to give them the room to try new things and improve the way that we're building.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And so I'm certainly in line with that. And so, because sometimes innovation, people think, oh, it's just new technology. Let's put a new, robot or new software into place. Yeah. And that might be it. But I always want to make sure that for us, innovation has to have impact. If you're going to do something new or novel and changing kind of the way we do things, it's got to actually have a good result. Innovation, I think, comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes, certainly within our organization over the past 30 years. When I started in 1998 in this industry, it was more analog at the time, right? Everything was paper-based and things just kind of moved along in that way. But when I joined Dome and the industry, the reason I went with this company is it felt like they were trying to do new things. And I know this organization at the time was kind of one of the first to sort of bring computers into our world. At that time, that was kind of a new thing in this industry, because we are generally not an industry that is known for doing all kinds of crazy things really quickly.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was sort of thinking about when I talk about sort of the growth and how construction has evolved over time. Sometimes I think about the movie Die Hard. Do you know the movie Die Hard?
I do, yeah. It's a great Christmas movie.
Exactly. It's a Christmas movie. That's right. From the 80s. And if you remember in that movie, there's a scene where Bruce Willis doesn't have his shoes, and he's in a construction site, right? And he's dealing with this bad actor. And I'm looking at that, and I'm starting to look at the scene, and it's a construction scene. And frankly, it doesn't look all that much different than a construction site does today, right? Wow. It actually, it's kind of weird how really, if you think about it, things haven't changed all that much. Every project that we do is very sort of bespoke to whatever the client wants. And it's all stick built mostly still to this day. So if you really step back, the industry at large, I don't think has really totally revolutionized the way we get things built. For me, I think about innovation sort of in an incremental way. And over time, we've certainly seen more digitization. There's more things that have grown in, but fundamentally, it's kind of the same thing. Where things evolved over time with innovation, I think there was certainly the kind of move towards the ability to use computers and all that kind of stuff. And early on, for us, it was bringing in-house database work and that kind of thing, just to kind of streamline documentation. And then after time, mobile became a thing, and everybody had their iPad, their phones, and everything like that. But really, that's just sort of incrementally moving the world away from paper into sort of the digital space. Certainly, people talk about BIM and 3D modeling and all that kind of stuff, and that's certainly part of it. But really, I think if I think about the innovation, at least within our organization, that's had the most impact and it's changed sort of the course of how we do business, it has more to do with how we work together as a group and as a team. In particular, what I saw in the sort of 2000s and moving into the 10s is a focus on lean construction and how the way we think about working together as a group. That was a huge change in and how we actually get projects coordinated and built from a sort of organizational structural standpoint. Again, within our organization, there was a huge innovation for us where we sort of rethought how our business was actually organized and structured that unlocked the potential that we sort of had latent in the business. So for us, it's as much about technology as it is about how do we just rethink about the work to make it better. So it certainly has changed, but in ways I think that are a little bit less obvious. And then certainly nowadays in the last 2-3 years, you can't not sort of understand that artificial intelligence is going to change things, I think, in a little bit more of a rapid way.
Yep.
But generally speaking, construction, it's a sort of slow moving train. And we're trying to bring new technology in, new ways of doing business. But ultimately, whatever we do, we want to make sure that it has an impact, either on cost, on schedule, on quality, on the experience that we have on the job site. So innovation, it's kind of a big squishy word, and sometimes it's not so obvious, but it's definitely a different thing from when I started.
But I appreciate your differentiation between just the nature of tech adoption isn't necessarily innovation, because if you're not changing something along that journey, okay, maybe you've made your process more efficient, or it might have taken less time. But I also like your example of, like, we've changed the way that we do work in the organization because of all of these things.
Yeah.
And I think technology is a really cool lens that allows folks to step out and think about changing the org structure or the workflows that we've adhered to for 100 or 200 years in a way that we didn't really have a mechanism to pull on previously. And so to your point, I think artificial intelligence is really starting to change the conversation.
It is.
I was more skeptical a couple of years ago when it was coming out, and the main conversation was tied to just the hallucinations of whatever large language model you particularly or were focused on in that particular day. The conversation has changed a lot. And so I actually want to dig into that a bit with you, because when I first met you, you shared a lot and you're doing some cool stuff. So it's going to be fun to unpack this a bit. But can you walk me through a few specific and tangible ways that Dome superintendents or others out in the field are actually adopting artificial intelligence right now? Like, what's happening in the field first?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it's important to sort of understand sort of the nature of the role of being in the field for superintendents, and sort of what they have to focus on, right? Their prime directive is to be on the job site all day, every day, moving around, solving problems right in the moment, trying to get the trade partners to play nice together and to align on the schedule. So they're just highly mobile people. So a lot of what those folks need is the ability to, and yet it is the ability to take their ideas and their thoughts and then get it into whatever tool or whatever system we've got. Because over time, the industry has gotten, more administrative. There's a lot of documentation that needs to be put into practice. Safety documentation, be it, daily reports, all these kinds of things. What we see out of the gate is mostly the ability for our superintendents to take their ideas and get it written out, right? Yeah. They're typically not the ones that are going to spend all this time typing in their big, long, drawn-out emails and things like that. They just got to go, right? Yep. So a lot of what we see out of the gate right now is kind of in that sort of writing assistance, the ability to sort of talk into their phone, turn that into a good coherent email that can then be, sent along to wherever. Some of the other cool things that we're starting to see superintendents do is they'll take a PDF document, they got a situation, and they mark it up and they say, hey, here's an issue. And oftentimes you got to then turn that into an RFI. You got to type it out and all this. Nowadays, you just take that PDF with the markup, put it in, whatever LLM that's out there, and just say, convert this into an RFI. Boom, written, done, put it in the system and go. So that's a huge time saver. They're constantly having to facilitate meetings, daily huddles and the weekly foreman meetings they do. And again, they're not the type that want to take a lot of notes and do all this kind of stuff, but you have to document those conversations. So more and more of the superintendents are recording those meetings, immediately turning all of those conversations into summaries, action items, the ability to track. So that's been a big win for a lot of our superintendents. Like I say, it seems to be mostly in the realm of allowing them to quickly move about their day and not be bogged down to sitting in front of a computer and all
Yeah.
the things that they got to do.
And that's what turns their day into a 12 or a 14-hour day
Exactly.
because they've been out in the field all day,
That's
and now
right.
they go, okay, I've got to sit at my
Yep.
desk and
Yep.
get all this documentation down. And I
That's
love,
right.
because I know voice to text had been a big change for folks as a starting point in the field, where they could just get the words into the document without having to try to use,
Yeah.
like big superintendent thumbs trying to,
Yep.
do a little text into, whatever device you're using. But now it's the stream of consciousness turned into something that's more professional.
That's right.
And the speed to turn around is pretty incredible.
Game changer. And again, they're moving around a lot, and iPads and that kind of thing have helped to sort of bring the information to them, but they need even quicker access.
Yeah.
So the ability to go into their tool and immediately retrieve information from the spec or from the drawings, all that kind of stuff. They're about quickness. They need fast response. And so that's another big win for our superintendents is information and answer retrieval in just a blink of an eye.
Nice.
That's the big thing, is how do we get them to be faster and quicker and not be beholden to the machine. Yeah.
And how does this differ from the folks that are working in the office more prominently?
Yeah. Here again, you think about the persona and sort of what the sort of day in the life of looks like, whereas the superintendent's running around trying to get everything, taken care of on the job site. Generally speaking, office side, the project engineers, project managers, so forth, they have that time in front of the screen and they're doing that. So the usage is certainly a little bit more enhanced.
Yep.
Certainly a lot of, the work that they're doing for procurement and getting submittals done, the ability to just take a giant specification and turn that into a submittal register, boom, done. The ability to take in all the documents and coordinate between them in more instantaneous way is great. The ability to analyze a schedule. Just yesterday, actually, we had a PDF schedule that came in. I just uploaded anything and said, analyze and find, any of the issues with this schedule. And it was amazing. Came up with pretty much exactly what it needed to be. Turn that schedule into an actual narrative that we can share with our customer. Done. I think it's the little bit more complex things that ends up happening on the office side. And then depending upon the department, the pre-construction team, the ability to do takeoff, automated takeoff, just poop, here's the drawing, click button.
I remember watching people do takeoffs for weeks just at the last GC that I worked at. And it just looked so agonizing.
Yeah.
And what a not great way to spend time.
A big chunk of my career, I've worn many hats in the company in the last 28 years. And one of them for a decent amount of time was an estimator. I was that person that sat in front and old school, color pencils and this kind of thing, and
counting doors,
this cool little tape thing for old school estimators. The little rolly tape. Anyway, and all that is just done. Now, the challenge in some of that stuff is that when I did take off, or when an estimator does take off, that's how they learn about the job.
Yep.
The scope, what's in, what's out, what are the risks, and so we have to balance the reduction in clicking, clickety, click, with, do you still know what's in there?
Yep.
And so that's kind of the trick now around all of the use of AI for our people, is you can't divorce yourself from understanding and knowing the scope and knowing what's important. Because we can automate a lot of things, but we have to be careful not to over automate and take the thinking away.
And there's such a learning opportunity in that moment that needs to be replaced with another means to like the entry-level job. There's a lot of steps that get somebody to being a mid or a senior level employee, regardless of the organization that you work in.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be an interesting and an admittedly challenging shift in the coming years, where how do we bring folks from that entry-level seat coming out of school or otherwise and bring them up that chain without some of these tasks that traditionally a more junior employee would do to learn the ropes and fill their time. And it's going to be an interesting and difficult moment for, I think, a lot of organizations.
I couldn't agree more. That's probably, of the biggest challenges I foresee, that's certainly in the top. How do we develop the future managers, the future leaders of an organization if we've automated the learning curve and the the grinding through all of the steps that it took to get here. So yeah, that's a big part of it. I was thinking about some of the other office related things. There's so much information on any type of project and within the organization, and it can be hard for the office folks to just find stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, when
And
I was a proposal manager, when we were pulling in old proposals to kind of have a starting point for a technical narrative or whatever it might be, that was such a manual process.
Totally.
And there was institutional knowledge required in, oh, I remember when we bid on that IDIQ 10 years ago, there's some great example language in there for this. And me as a junior employee who didn't participate in that bid effort,
Yeah, how would you know?
I don't know that that's there. I don't even know where it is because it's 75 folders deep, nested in a system that I don't know how to navigate.
And nowadays, it is just go in the chat. The tool we're using understands our entire corpus of knowledge within our organization and find me all the information I need about this. Done.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a big, big time saver for our people. It's just finding the information they need in order to be successful and how to learn about it. Right. Hey, remind me, what are the steps I need to take to do this? There you go. So we're seeing a lot more and more of that kind of thing coming out too.
And I'd like to hear more about where you're personally at with AI as well. And things I was really excited about when we were first chatting is how much experimenting you're doing. And you're really in the tools and trying to put them through the ringer to see what's possible. What are you doing now that's successful or interesting outside of the typical, document management and such? I'd love to hear what your mad scientist moments are.
Mad scientist. I would say that anytime that I've sort of been asked to sort of take on and sort of bring an innovation to our organization, which has happened in several different phases of my career, the first part of any of it is just the play phase. Just roll up your sleeves, start messing around in it, see what it can and can't do. And so really the past year to 2 years has just been try different things and see where it works and see where it doesn't. And certainly it's been amazing to see the advancement. As you say, like 2 years ago, it was just kind of a novelty. This is cool.
It makes
it turns that paragraph into Dr. Seuss. And it's like, okay, that's interesting, but it's not terribly functional.
Yep.
Nowadays, it's gone well beyond what I would expect. And so certainly a lot of what I do now is building agents that will allow us to sort of get a good output every time, right? I think that's the challenge with generative AI is that you can ask it a question and it's going to generate a slightly different answer every time, that you just don't know how to corral it. And so a lot of what I do is building really advanced prompts to ensure that the output is consistent and useful.
I think I'm seeing roles like prompt engineer come up now because the nuance of successfully prompting the agents is a lot of work, and you can throw a sentence or two in and get something okay. But if you really go into the weeds and understand how to force it into the paradigm you're looking for, the output changes dramatically. And it's, I don't think everybody realizes that. Like, it's very easy to casually use whatever LLM, but you can be way more effective.
It's simple to just put in a one-line question like you would in Google. Most of my prompts are 2 pages long.
Yeah.
They're a story. In order to get the best out of whatever LLM you're using, you got to tell it a story, all of it. And we certain prompting mechanisms, but so a lot of it is that, but ultimately that is to then help create the agents that are going to create a bit of consistency across the organization. Because it's one thing if I have an amazing prompt and it's doing amazing things for me. It's another thing to how do you propagate that across the organization.
And your super might not have the time to write a 2-page narrative.
Yeah, of course not, right? And we could create prompt libraries and things like that, and that might be that, and we have, and there's some utility in that, but it still requires somebody to sort of do a bit of work. The agents that you can build now, it's just here, launch this RFI authoring agent. As I continue to build these agents, then it's okay. What's the parent agent that's going to sort of coordinate the child agents? And so that's some of the work that I'm beginning to sort of explore a little bit more. And nowadays, with the vibe coding possibilities to actually generate more like an actual program, an actual app that is coded, that's really where I'm beginning to get super excited. Because it used to be, again, one of the hats that I wore back in the early 2000s. I did a lot of database programming and and created actual functional tools within our organization prior to cloud, right? Before the cloud existed, a lot of the actual functional tools that we had in our business were coded.
Yep.
It was at the time, well, we used a tool called FileMaker. And so it was a, kind of a easy scripting kind of thing, but it was programming. And so, but over time, it became clear we're not in the business of programming our own apps.
Yep.
We got to start looking around. And so I sort of lost that skill, the ability to actually create a solution. And in the last month, the ability to just say, this is what I want this tool to do, and have it immediately within 30 minutes give you a functional, ready to deploy app.
Yeah. It's an
Unreal.
interesting moment. I'm hearing more contractors talking about this too.
Yeah.
And to your point, there's definitely a big era where a lot of the bigger GCs in particular were building and developing their own tools internally.
Yeah.
And there was a big shift away from that because the maintenance resources required to keep this in-house tool with parity with whatever tools you're also using, folks have to be very careful because the sunk cost fallacy there can also play a big picture as far as, okay, we spent $1 million making this tool. Does it still make sense for us to continue using that? It served us up until today, but it might not tomorrow. And I think this is turning it upside down a little bit, but there's also security risks that come with the vibe coding and all kinds of other things too. So like, I always encourage people to just be really mindful of how you go down that rabbit hole. Like, I've been playing with that myself too. So funny story, I started as a computer science major in college, actually. And I got a semester into that and I went, oh, this is not how my brain works. We're not going to do
Sounds like my roommate in college too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I was just like, hey, I'm not doing this. And I found my way into technical communication. So I can't code a single line of anything. I know hello world, and that's it. Maybe in like a basic programming language. And that's as far as my brain remembers of anything that I learned in that one semester. And so I was playing with Claude the other day just to see what I could do. And I'm like, can I get this to make a video game? And so I've actually vibe coded 2 very bad video games. I'll be very candid there. One is this like crazy 3D Pong game that just runs in a browser and like I'm like demanding it to introduce new features. Sometimes it breaks, sometimes it doesn't. It's playable, and I could play it in 1-player or 2-player. I never really will, but I just wanted to see if I could do it. And then I made a first-person shooter game, and that one is way harder to get to do it. But I finally did get a level that functioned. The worst graphics ever, still running in a browser, and like, wow.
But you have no experience. None, zero. Yeah. And all you're saying is, now try this, now add this. And the ability to just in natural language, just describe what it is you want. That was a bit of an aha moment in the last couple of months in seeing that you can now do that. And so I've toyed around, to your point, with sort of nonsense kind of apps just to see what are the possibilities. And now my brain is just spinning. Oh, wow, we could build something for that. But to your point, and one of the reasons why we went away from FileMaker was it was becoming an internal maintenance thing. And we could tell that because it wasn't cloud native, we were going to be falling behind. And at some point, you just got to say, we do construction, we don't do software. And so we made a transition, to cloud service type stuff. But I don't know, there's probably some one-off, point solutions that are worth internally building, at least until such time as bigger companies build that into their thing. But we think about, do you want best in suite? Do you want best in class? Suites are great because you get the integration, data flows through very nicely. You might not get the most powerful individual modules. Somebody individually that's doing this is going to do that better. But the connectedness and the sort of, integration has a lot of value.
The platform conversation.
The platform is really important. So we think a lot about that. And again, as we're evaluating solutions and softwares, we're looking at sort of extensibility. How is the information going to flow through? And hey, if that tool isn't the most amazing thing, but boy, it talks immediately to that thing, we head in that directions. But
the manual moving of data introduces so much risk and just time waste. So that depth of interconnection makes sense. The other cool thing about the vibe coding that's happening right now is in the hands of me, like I created a marginally functional Pong game that deeply amused me for the half hour
Yeah,
or hour I was fiddling with it just to see
that's
if I
right.
could do it. But in the hands of somebody who is a very competent
Yeah.
programmer, the way they prompt the tool is very
Yes.
different from
Yes.
my very uninformed, like, well, I've seen this game
Yeah.
before and I'd like it to be like this,
Yep.
versus a lot more focused and specific. I need a module to achieve X thing and interconnect. Like
Mhm.
it's like I've talked to some of my friends who are engineers who do this, professionally now,
Yeah.
and it's a very different convo from me just sitting in my house going, I wonder if
Exactly.
I can do that because that's neat.
Yeah, I think the folks that were once the hard coding programmers, they're gonna they know how to think like the machine,
Yeah,
and that helps, right? So yeah, I think I over my career, even though it was 90% of it was specifically construction, do all that stuff, the 10% that I was doing in the sort of programming software space has given me just enough to go, oh, now I see how it can do that differently. And if I ask it in this way, I know I can then take that information and move it over there. And yeah, I'm quite fortunate that my pathway has given me a bit of a variety of different experiences to sort of put it together into creating a solution. So yeah, but there's so much more to do. It's just it's wild. The possibilities are kind of mind blowing these
yeah.
days.
And on that, actually, I'm interested to understand, what do you hope to achieve in the future? And if you could put an AI brain on top of all of your tools and project data, like what would you be trying to achieve, or what would you be asking it?
Yeah. Um, I am very actively working on that solution of just sticking a brain on all of our uh, back of house data. What I want to be able to get out is the insights and the proactive ability to identify risk
Mhm.
and to sort of foresee, hey, here's the combination of factors that projects have that either lead to success or lead to failure. One of the things, another hat that I wear in the company is I facilitate team alignment sessions, bringing all the team members together, the client, the designers, and trade partners, and Dome, and everybody. We come together and identify how are we going to work together on this project team and go, and then additionally at the end, facilitating project retrospectives. What worked, what didn't work, how do we
Yeah.
how do we do things better? It's all about continuous improvement in my mind, and which is innovation, right? Innovation is sort of this never-ending, constantly try to make things better. Over that time that I've been doing a lot of that, I've kind of come up to my own synthesis of what I see as being the factors of success. I call them the key ingredients of success. And I'm quite interested that if I were to stick a brain on, all of our project information and all that, what would it see? What am I missing?
Yeah.
So I think it's this ability for us to be more predictive and less reactive is what I'm hoping for. And then ultimately no question goes unanswered. The ability to, in one pane of glass, one chat window, get the answer to literally any question that you could possibly have, both within our organization's, information, both from a learning perspective. How do I do an RFI within our system? How do I process a submittal? Whatever the thing is, okay, instantaneous learning, bespoke to that person's needs in that moment and then also, hey, when are we supposed to, install the drywall on floor 3? Literally, there's no question that can't go unanswered.
Yeah. No longer need a in the moment, a schedule expert to go in and
No,
investigate that
nope,
answer. Somebody else might be able to glean that.
right. And all of that, in my view, is in service of allowing our people to be on the job site more, to be solving more creative and interesting challenges, to building relationships with the trade partners and everyone. Taking the sort of administrative information gathering away
Yeah.
and just focus on the people relationships that we have. Because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters in construction is how do people get along?
Yep.
And that's what leads to, success. Is just, it's a people business. And so if we can kind of use the brain to enable and give us the information we need, then the humans can do what humans do best, which is have conversations, solve things together.
I like it.
Look at a situation and immediately know kind of what it is and how to go about it. I still think that there's a long, 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 long way to go before technology and AI will really be able to walk a place and know exactly, how do I get this thing over here with the dexterity that the humans have to figure out everything in a heartbeat.
Yep.
The brain is absolutely fascinating. Its ability to sort of assess something and know what it is and know how to manipulate the world.
Yeah, there's so much historical context that we apply to, like, even like just like opening a jar. Like, you look at it, you go, I know how to do that because I've done it 400 times. Like, it's fine. Or I, look at some piece of equipment and I've used that or some
Yeah,
variation of it. I might have
variation.
never touched this tool, but I can make a lot of inferences based on understanding
That's right.
historical information. And I think that is definitely a gap in some of the AI tools
Yeah.
right now.
I mean, eventually maybe it'll like the advancement in the last 6 months has been crazy. So who knows?
Heck,
Who knows where
in the last 6 weeks?
in the last 6 weeks? Yeah, literally. I mean, look at and give me a phone right now and go, oh yeah, that's a new thing. It's never ending. But I do think that at the end of the day, it's humans working with humans, and AI is just there to facilitate that ability for humans to collaborate with humans.
Yeah.
That's it.
So obviously you're a fan of AI, which
I
is a big reason why we're having this conversation today. I'd love to understand a bit more about how you're encouraging your teams to safely and successfully experiment with these tools. Like, I know you're creating all the different agents and you're putting in the groundwork, but what's happening beyond you, doing the mad scientist thing and setting all these things up and translating that into folks feeling empowered or interested even in playing with these tools?
Yeah,
Playing is the wrong word, I think.
Well,
Like,
actually, that's
in times, yeah.
Well. Actually, I'll just put sort of address that. Like anything, this is the ultimate change management situation, right? Change is tough for a lot of people, and this is the mother of all changes in a lot of ways. And so you got a lot of different mindsets about it. It's the you got, on the one spectrum, you got this is Terminator, this is Skynet, this is just gonna right, to whoa, I'm already interfacing with it. So you got a whole spectrum there, and trying to address that whole spectrum takes very individualized touch. And so part of my role, learning is also a hat that I wear. For different types of people within the organization, we're sort of doing different types of learning. Field people will need a certain sort of methodology to get them skilled up, apart from office, apart from the folks that are kind of back of house, And so we've got sort of different ways of trying to sort of meet the individuals where they're at.
Okay.
There's the broader message. I think it's really important that, if an organization is really serious about trying to create an AI strategy, you're very clear with what's allowable and what's not. And so a lot of what we did over the past in 2025 was defining our strategy, our AI strategy.
Which is important because there's a lot of risks mixed into the conversation as well.
Huge risks, right? And so, number one, why are we doing it? And the mantra that has come to fruition. And Caitlin Frank was a previous guest on this podcast, and she was a superintendent, and the way that she phrased it was just perfect. We're doing AI and bringing that to this to get back to building. I mean, that's the mantra that we have in our organization, is back to building. And so it's kind of inspiring people that, why are we doing this? Well, that's what it is. It's not to eliminate jobs and all this kind of stuff. No, it's so that we can put our energy into what we love, which is building. You got to kind of inspire people across the board. I think that's helped. But also say, But we understand that there's inherent dangers with hallucinations, with privacy and all that kind of stuff. And so part of the messaging that we've done more broadly is what are the rules of the road?
Yeah.
And
Please don't upload the skiff plans
you
into
can't, right?
ChatGPT.
And right. So we've made a corporate sort of mandate,
Mhm.
if you will, that we're a Microsoft house,
Yep.
right? And so it's Copilot. We are a Copilot shop, and we've made it very clear to all employees that we're using Copilot because we have data. There's data governance.
Yep.
And when you log in, and we're a walled off environment now. When you are using Copilot, feel free, upload whatever you want, right?
Yep.
This is now it becomes a play. And so a lot of the messaging out of the gate that we put out was in order to begin to really feel excited about it, you just got it roll, just play.
Yeah.
And literally when we did our all hands corporate event, when we were talking about AI, the slide that I had was literally a giant word play with a kid on a bike or something, because that's the way we can all end up being, versant in it, is just goofing off.
Yeah, because
See what it does.
It's a little intimidating.
It's totally
before you touch
intimidating.
it. And
That's right.
like, I'm a very tech focused, tech savvy person, and I remember the first time I opened up ChatGPT, I'm like, what the heck do I do with
Yeah,
this?
what do I do?
You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, what now? And
Yeah.
I still have a lot of work to do to become a more effective prompt engineer. Quite frankly, being very candid,
Yeah.
I'm a lazy prompt engineer more often than not, and I will bully the tool into getting me what I need
Yeah.
over time, and it works.
Yeah.
But I could be a lot more effective, especially if I'm doing stuff that's not work related. I'm like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
You know?
You call it bullying. I call it coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to work it, and you start out. And nowadays, when I'm prompting, it's kind of sometimes I will purposefully not have a very elaborate prompt because I kind of just want to see what's going to come out,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes I overthink it, and I will try to corral this thing, when at the end of the day, it would be easier to just say, hey, what do you think? And then just throw it in there, and then it comes back like, all right, now I got to start corralling. But getting back to the getting people sort of excited about it, is we also need to meet people where they're at in terms of what are the daily things that they're doing. So a fair amount of what we're trying to do is, hey, use this for this specific task that you're going to do, just to make it more tangible, so that it's not like, what do I do with this? Well, do this and see what happens.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is just trying to meet people with where they're at. And, you get the early adopters that are just like already uploading this and processing that and doing the analysis of this and these kinds of things. And great, right? And those are the people that I'm trying to sort of bring into the fold a little bit more into our sort of AI strategy. We have a couple of core teams that sort of help evaluate and move things forward.
Yeah.
And so the early adopters are really being harnessed for the future potential of things. Yeah. So
have you defined what success looks like for these folks, or do you have a perspective on that, especially for the people that are just starting to get their feet wet with the different tools?
You mean the early adopters?
Yeah.
I can't say that I've got a hard definition of what success looks like for early adopters. I mean, like I say, the early adopters are pretty quickly elevating their skills to the point where they're legitimately creating steps and tools and prompts and whatever agents that are automating decent chunks of their work, right?
Yeah.
And so it's keep going at it. And I'd say that success for a lot of the people that are trying to do more meaningful things is it legitimately reducing hours of
Yes.
your day of doing something. And it's situational. But for early adopters, mostly it's just see what you can do and then help others, right? To evangelize the benefits that you're getting. One of the dark horse early adopters that I kind of didn't see was one of our general superintendents, who's been in the industry for 40 years or something. Yeah. I mean, just forever, right? And maybe you would call him a stereotypical old school.
Old salt superintendent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a teddy bear, but anyway. He was sort of sheepishly came to say, like, hey, I'm starting to use this for that and this for that. And he is like, he is so far down the road of using AI to genuinely help his everyday life. He's like, this is incredible. I've never had this kind of power. So then you take those early adopters, especially for depending upon where their role is in the organization, they become the evangelists for other people. And then the other superintendents go, if he's doing it, oh, geez.
Yeah. Why on earth am I not?
Yeah, why am I not? Or, hey, can you help me? Sit down with me so I can learn from you. And so I'm trying to get the early adopters to help teach others with, how it's benefiting them in a real world way.
And that's a big win. And I think the validity of having that conversation, you go, look at this guy. You wouldn't have expected him to be the one that's out on the forefront doing this. And here he is, like, heck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And I love how you're just really encouraging your team to try things and figure out within safe context and guidelines what's actually possible. And I always reiterate this, please, please, please don't upload confidential or private information into a public facing, not walled off large language model. Please don't do it, because the security risks of that for your organization are tremendous. And I think your clients and customers will also be very upset if they figured out that was happening.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to get really excited, but like we do the same thing at Autodesk. We have a lot of different AI tools, and they're all very much walled off from the external world, and it keeps our documentation safe.
Yeah, we when it first started looking like, the trains left the station and people are just starting to use whatever they're using, ChatGPT, whatever, and that was, maybe a year ago, you could start seeing people just, I wonder what this is about, and they start doing it. And so we took a bit of a timestamp of what tools people were using about 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, we're running with scissors here. And over the past 6 months or so that we've established, these are the rules of the road. This is da 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 da. And we've communicated out. We've done did a resurvey and reassessment, and thankfully we have big time moved that needle. And now there's a couple of folks sort of randomly using some of the free stuff out there, but yeah, we've completely moved the needle towards walled off environment, and that's the only way to go at this stage.
It makes a lot of sense. Would you have any other specific advice for folks out there considering trying these tools or getting started, especially if they're still feeling hesitant despite how bullish you and I both happen to be about the topic?
I don't know that I have advice per se, other than maybe my own just personal way of going about things, is sometimes you just got to kind of work through your hesitation and just start playing and tooling around in it. I'd say that for those that really want to create change in this direction, creating a clear vision and strategy, identifying what does it look like over the course of years, because there's so much going on, it's hard to keep everything straight.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself a bit of license to say, I'm not going to get distracted by that shiny object over there. This is the step that I'm focusing on now, and I want to get that completed. And it's hard. It's super hard to do that now because things are changing so quickly. Your thinking and your strategy 4-6 months ago could be completely upended by the new model that just
one
gets
feature
pushed
release
out.
comes out and you
It's
go,
like,
oh,
well, okay, I guess we're gonna have to change that. But absent of some kind of legitimate step strategy, you just wandering about and hoping that things happen. I think it's important to start with some structure and really know the why. Why are we doing this? What are the lanes that we want to swim in, and tighten and tighten your guardrails, because otherwise it just could go rudderless and nothing gets done.
I say the same thing for folks when they're starting to think about like more intentional data strategy. It's like, don't boil the ocean. Like, go find where you're already effective in the data you're capturing or in analyzing and being intentional. That's where you can up level, because you probably got some champions there already to some degree who are going to be interested in whatever change you're introducing.
Yeah.
Prove that out and then expand it out. Because to your point, if you just go, all right, let's do all of it. Like I call it shiny new toy syndrome. In the AEC industry for a long time, we didn't really have a lot of shiny toys to chase, especially on the software and technology side. Everything was, we were using something made for somebody else and forcing it into our own workflows.
Yeah.
And that is very obviously not the case anymore. And we need to be very deliberate in what tools we choose to chase and what the ROI is going to bring. And I think it really comes back to that bigger platform conversation as well, because
Hmm.
if you have all these disparate tools and you can't move the data between all of them, you're still creating even new silos, even if you're
Yeah. Yeah.
analyzing one particular piece. And so it's all very complex. And I have empathy for CTOs and IT leaders and everything at construction companies, because the status quo has changed very dramatically,
Hmm.
and they have a lot of work in front of them. But it's exciting work. It has really important and positive implications, but
Yeah.
it's still a lot of work.
You definitely hit on something too around, what are the sort of core steps to try to, kind of bring a new technology in. And in this case, I think the data and having a singular place. Quite fortunately, we embarked on a journey a couple of years back to build a data warehouse
Mhm.
to really consolidate all of it in one place, with SharePoint being all in one place. The real sort of power that we get out of any of this stuff is when it's all in one place. If your workflows and your data is all over the place, it's just you can't see the insights.
Yeah.
We think about that a lot, and I think if somebody's really trying to kind of bring this into form, it's really understanding what's the corpus of knowledge that you've got, and is it in one place?
No, I'm
And
just glad that we're stepping away from the nested endless folder structure where you're trying to find. I remember when I was a proposal
yeah,
manager in particular, it'd be
yeah,
like bid day. And so
hmm,
we're all running around trying to finish everything. Of course, the estimate's coming together at the last minute, as it always does, because of
yeah,
the nature of how estimating happened to work at that time.
yep,
And I'm sitting there, whether it was a print or an email, and I go, okay, senior estimator, where are the final files that I need to put into this proposal now? And I'd open up that nested folder. I'd go
uh huh,
17 deep to go find where
uh huh,
that Excel
yeah,
Excel file was, or the PDF or whatever.
yeah,
And there'd be like 95 of them in there. And it'd be like V1, V2,
yeah.
V7,
Right.
V7B, V7B,
Uh,
V7B underscore
you're
final,
bringing me
final,
back
really.
nightmares. Stop.
That's the reason why I'm not a proposal manager
Yeah.
anymore. But it was just like, oh God. And I'd be like, get over here, yelling over the office, because,
Yeah.
we didn't have any chat tools at that point.
Nope.
And just getting somebody to come and be like, which dang file is it? And then, last minute, you print it, you submit it, you ship it, whatever. And
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
chaos. And I'm just really glad that we're getting away from those
Yeah.
moments to the best of our ability, because there's a lot of PTSD there. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah. It's funny. I think back on my time as an estimator doing the same, bid day stuff.
Yeah.
And as much as I am all about technology and the digital world and all this kind of stuff, which I am, I'm still a very analog kind of person. Certainly when it came to estimating, there's something about the paperwork and the pencil and to be able to flip through that. Maybe I'm old school. I don't know, but it made me more aware of what was going on. And when it came time to do the hard bidding situation, multiple proposals, I always printed everything, and I just wanted to look at I needed to look at paper, and I needed to be able to sort the
Yeah.
paper in, and we had these little sleeve things, and we would put the different divisions in different places, and I was so much more capable of seeing the forest for the trees when I could just put it all in front of my face
Yep.
and organize it that way. The moment it kind of became a bunch of PDFs and a thing, it was harder, frankly. And yeah, it streamlined some other downstream things, but I think that's the thing too, is to try to really figure out, is this really, just because it's a tech tool doesn't necessarily mean it's better.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of understanding, you know, whether you really want to go down that path or
Yep.
not. So
Yeah, you don't chase the tool just to chase the
yeah,
tool. You chase the outcome. It's like,
outcomes.
what do we want to achieve with this goal?
Right.
And that's hard to do sometimes, and understandably so. But when we're at the scale we are today with the tools available, we have to
Yeah.
be pretty exacting and deliberate.
Yeah, this is different, right? This last couple of years and going into the future is legit different
Yeah.
than anything I've seen in the last 30 years.
Well, I've got one final question for you today.
Yeah,
What is one tool that you use in every project, regardless of what you're working on?
one tool.
Yeah,
Regardless,
whatever you're working on, is there a tool you bring to every project?
we're not necessarily talking like a hammer.
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be a hammer. Projects that I do are quite. There's a variety.
Yeah.
Literally every day is a different project
Yep.
that I'm working on. So my answer is a lean mindset. And I know that this conversation wasn't really about lean construction and that sort of thing. But in order, I think, for me to be successful I have to implement the mindset of a lean thinker and all of the various tools that come within that sort of toolkit, because every project is kind of unique to its needs. So the way I think about every situation, the idea of plan, do, check, adjust, the idea of a Kanban system, the to do, doing, done comes up all the time. I live my life by those principles. Continuous improvement, the way you sort of break a problem down into its fundamental components, all those. So it's not a specific tool. It's more I have to think in a way that sort of brings a bunch of tools together.
Yeah.
Because my work is not physically building anything. It's creating something from nothing. And so, yeah, I guess it's maybe my brain. That's the tool.
Hey, I like it. Either if we're just talking about the lean aspect or your brain too,
Yeah.
you have to bring both. The intentional approach that you're applying to all of your projects with the lean mindset specifically, I think that's a tool. So it qualifies. I like it. It's the first time anybody, I think, has said that in over 130 episodes. So I like it. Unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
And for everybody out there listening, of course, you've likely figured out by now, I'm Eric Thomas, the host of Digital Builder. If you're interested in asking me any questions or want to get in touch, you can find me on LinkedIn. Not hard to find. I think I'm the only Eric Thomas that's at Autodesk. Of course, we are video first. So if you're an audio listener, I love you so very much. But we are in an incredible space.
This is cool.
This is a cool space.
This is very cool.
Head over to YouTube and take a peek at what we're doing. And of course, you can find us on any major podcast player that you're interested in. And until the next time, goodbye.